Okay, good afternoon, committee members and other parties of interest. This oral presentation for RFP 25-00378, the CMAR for the CDBG/DR Single Family Housing Repair and Replacement Program is being held in part by means of communications, media, and technology. Active participation will be for committee members and presenting firms only. A recording of the meeting will be made available to the public and all other interested parties. Please be advised that the cone of silence is still in effect. All meetings and correspondence must include me. My name is Ethan Kersey, and I'm the buyer for this project. Again, for the record, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted online at a future date. At this time, I'll ask each committee member to introduce themselves for the record, beginning with the committee chair.
Good afternoon, Robert Hendrickson, Management and Budget.
Hi, Audrey Ziegler, Social Services Department.
Rob Parkinson, Management and Budget, Criminal Justice and Grants Management Office.
John Muller, Facilities and Real Estate, Hillsborough County.
Brenda Vallesilla, Affordable Housing Services.
Kim Rogers, Water Resources Department.
Sarah Williams, Architectural Services Manager with Capital Program.
Nicole Galber, Affordable Housing.
Thank you. Presenters, if you would, please introduce yourself for the record the first time you speak today as well. Our presenters will have a total of 60 minutes, 30 minutes for presentation and 30 minutes for Q&A. The committee is advised that they may ask clarifying questions regarding any information provided in the firm's written proposal or that the firm brings up during today's oral presentation and interview. I will be timing your presentation and will signal to you when there are 2 minutes remaining. Immediately following the presentation, we will move on to the Q&A portion where I will also track your time. So Dynamic, I will start your time once you begin speaking, and with that, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ethan. Good afternoon, everybody. We really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. My name is Zach Butterworth. I'm the CEO of Dynamic. And first, I want to start by acknowledging really what this community's been through. You all got hit by major storms in a real rapid succession, including Hurricane Milton and Helene, causing really tough flooding, damaging thousands of homes and displacing too many families. We get that this is personal for you all, and we carry that responsibility with us as disaster survivors ourselves. As a former government official, I also want to recognize the process you all ran. It's been transparent, it's been disciplined, it's been thorough. As a contractor, we appreciate open and fair competition, and we have no doubt it'll result in a better outcome for your residents. In the review session, which our entire team watched, you asked really specific questions of our team and the contractors. We took careful notes and thought it was best to use our time to walk through those questions rather than going back through our proposal. So with that, we'll start with the first question. So Robert, Kimberly, and Nicole, you all asked, what's the role of an executive sponsor? Well, in this case, that's the term we use for our chairman, Josh McCoy. He started Dynamic 25 years ago as a home builder, and he makes sure that our projects have the financial capacity, the bonding, the resources, and the people to get work started quickly and to keep it going. So just since we submitted our proposal to you in November, Josh worked to increase our line of credit from $500 million to $700 million. Also, our bonding's been increased from $250 million to $400 million. That's the kind of work that our executive sponsor does. The team also asks, how do we ensure contractor financial strength? So on our side, we have a lot of experience working with a diverse group of subs. We make sure to pay our subs timely and to make sure subs of all sizes can participate. We employ flexible payment terms, which the team can answer more questions about should you have them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scotty Mahler. He's our Executive Vice President who leads all construction company-wide. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Hi, guys. My name's Scotty Mahler, Executive Vice President of Operations for Dynamic. And as Zach said, through your live evaluations, we saw comments and concerns, so we'll go ahead and address them. So these are from Tara, Kimberly, and John. Is Dynamic an experienced general contractor? The answer to that is yes. We have serviced large-scale housing projects with FEMA, the Corps of Engineers, local and state agencies in many states. Second question is Dynamic experience in CDBG-DR? The answer to that is yes. We have completed over 3,500 CDBG projects, and we have worked in 10 states. In our experience in CDBG-DR, we have worked on recon slab on grade, recon elevated, rehabs, elevation of rehabs, and replacement of MHUs. Next question, what is our local CDBG experience? Here in the next couple of slides, Chris will be talking about some of our local CDBG experience, but I'll just say that we're working in 20 different municipalities right around the Hillsborough area, and also have some work going in the panhandle of Florida. Next question was, will we be self-performing? The answer to that is yes. We'll be self-performing project management, construction management, cost management, case management, and risk management. And we'll also be performing field work in the field, such as demos, building pads, driveways, porch steps, elevators, etc. So I'll turn this next slide over to Chris to talk about some of our work in Florida.
Hey, Scotty. Thank you, team. My name is Chris Fink. I'm the CMAR construction lead. One of the questions that came up from Miss Brenda and Miss Tara was effectively, are we experienced in Florida? And we wanted to basically add that as a resounding yes. We've been familiar with the area and been working in Florida since the beginning of the Ian restoration process. As Scotty mentioned earlier, we are working and have worked in more than 20 municipalities across the state. And realistically, we brought a great team together, and us combined with great local subs and internal staff. We've been in this area for the past 20 years with all that combined. One particular person I'd like to bring up is Milan, sitting right here to my left. She's a Hillsborough native and actually has been working directly with the CDBG in Hillsborough County for the past 5 years. Next slide, please. So your team also asked us to highlight, Ms. Tara asked us to kind of highlight one of our main programs. And for that, we brought up the Restore Louisiana project. When Restore Louisiana started back in 2021 and that came out for bid, they were estimating to complete over 5,000 homes. That ended up being 2 contractors. We were selected as one of the 2. And I want to share a couple of highlights. In 2024, we had over 1,800 active projects throughout all of the construction process. And that was a beautiful task that we took on. And we're really excited to do. In 2025, we completed over 1,000 homes where we were actually able to give the clients and the citizens their keys back to their damaged homes, and increasing our total project total to over 2,600 houses. And so with that, there's big numbers, and with those big numbers, it really shows a couple of main things. When the project started, we were receiving about 30 houses per month. But during the height of that program, we ended up receiving over 300 houses to go start construction on in each individual month. This capacity over this 3-year contract really shows our ability to scale staff, to report well, to solve problems quickly, and ultimately deliver results. So Scotty, I'll hand it back over to Scotty for some additional operational comments.
Thank you, Chris. So Robert and Kimberly, there was a couple questions I was asked about how we'll hire and plan to ensure the right people. So we have started that process over 3 months ago. We actually attended job fairs and was able to get resumes for the qualified people. We also held subcontractor fairs there in Tampa so we could get the right subcontractors, paperwork in and ready to go for this particular project. And in fact, some of the subcontractors that we met there are working on some of our current projects. Next slide, please. Robert and Kimberly, questions also, what is our hiring plan? One thing that I do want to highlight is, we want to hire local folks to rebuild our community. We're all about hiring local folks. When the CDBG-DR project gets started, we want to start them with our project management staff that is experienced. As we go through these slides, you'll see some of our experienced staff members, and we'll start the project with the folks that understand how these things need to be set up. But as we're, getting into the project, we'll be definitely hiring local folks. Next question is, what is the staffing ramp up process? As you can see on the chart on the right, understanding CDBG is a big part of staffing. So we understand that when the work orders start coming out, we understand that a program starts off slow and it ramps up. So as the pipeline starts filling up, we're looking at the houses that's going to be awarded, and we staff according to the pipeline. So our personnel will be staffed before the houses are awarded. What does this mean for Hillsborough? One thing I could tell you, with being part of many CDBG-DR programs, it takes a certain type of person to be able to work on these programs. We have the trained folks. I'll just go through a couple of them, from our project management side to our construction management to our superintendents. These homeowners, they have been through some tough times and been out of their homes in some cases for several years. So meeting those homeowners, you got to understand how to talk to them. You got to understand how to explain to them. You got to understand how to work through the process with them. So, we got steps in place where, when we meet with the homeowner, the superintendent will walk through it with them. Then, if they don't understand at that point, they can call our case management. We got a full staff of case managers that can walk them through the process. And you'll hear a little later how we, have learned that may not work. So we got contractor liaisons where, we could take that a step further to try to help the homeowner to get through this process successfully. So with that being said, I'll turn the next slide over to AJ to talk about pre-construction services.
Thanks, Scotty. Hey guys, AJ Hubert, pre-construction manager. As Scotty said, we've noticed in our history with these programs, and especially the size of a program, that if we can create capable teams with good leaders and each develop like kind of swim lanes for them all to be in that all work together toward the program success, it really helps our train flow a lot better. So some questions and comments from Mr. Robert and Kimberly and Nicole came up. One of these swim lanes, we got Nick at the top, Nick Haslam as our principal, and we got me in project pre-construction services. We got Chris in this construction lane, and we have on the project management side, Mr. Greg Summer. And that is the second bullet point there. What does the program liaison do? We've learned that there are special cases and there are special needs that go with these things, and everything always doesn't go to plan. So we kind of operate on the 80-20 rule, that 80% goes well and there's this 20% that doesn't go anything like it was planned to be. So Greg will take these special cases and special needs and kind of pull them from Chris's construction lane, handle them offsite as the liaison between BDO and Dynamic. And then when the problem is solved, insert them back in the construction train and we'll roll on. A good example of this is we had an elderly woman in one of our programs that was having some zoning issues with the property. And Greg actually sat in some county meetings with her on her behalf and got some variances so that we could proceed with construction on her property. So that was huge for the lady, and that was also a big kudos to the program to push that through. The last bullet point is about dedicated compliance and warranty staff. We do have dedicated compliance staff all the way from pre-construction to project management. We have in-house code compliant experts, permit compliance experts on my pre-con side, and CDBG-DR compliance consultants and program compliance consultants on the PM side. As far as warranty staff goes, like Scotty said, we definitely want to start the program with our experienced staff that knows how this goes. So the gentleman you see there in the middle, Mr. James Evans, warranty coordinator, we would start the process off with him. But the warranty staff is something that's easily trainable, and we could quickly hire local people to handle that for the program. That's what we'd like to do. For the next slide, I'll turn it over to Mr. Nick Haslam for some day-to-day workflow.
Thanks, AJ. Nick Haslam, I'm the project principal. On questions and comments received from Tara on communication, so who will be Hillsborough day-to-day contacts? On the side here is a list of key staff department management, as AJ touched on. These will be main point of contacts, as well as in my role as the project principal. I'll serve as a contact to maintain that program visibility, project execution, minimize risk, and oversee team performance. A question about local staff. So in our proposal, it was not an exhaustive list of staff. Our existing CDBG-DR team and myself will be relocating and is prepared to onboard and establish those policies, procedures, while we train and engage local talent that'll balance against our key personnel. Working with Hillsborough implementation lead. So as a partner, Dynamic's going to take that systematic approach to improving quality, standardization of plans, while we streamline permitting across the 4 Hillsborough jurisdictions, and simultaneously working with BDO's software system for tracking projections, and really just working hand in hand to develop those accurate assessment scopes, homeowner interactions, working with Hillsborough and A&E firms. So this will start with AJ in pre-construction services. We're going to work in collaboration to engage in the workshops, provide cost estimates on design, evaluate all systems, components, materials for the entire project lifecycle, and really just provide recommendations to meet all schedule requirements as well. So on this next slide, you'll hear from Miguel on subcontractor relationships.
Thank you, Nick. My name is Miguel Oro. How you guys doing? I'm the construction manager here in Tampa, and I'm going to answer a couple of these bullets that we have here from Miss Kimberly. The first one saying how many general contractors, and some contractors are local and regional. But right now, currently, we have over 25 dedicated local subs right now ready for the project. The second question how will BHL be engaged on the project? Well, BHL knows CDBG. They know Tampa. They have been brought along as a strong contractor that can help us and this program deliver results. Third one, permitting. Well, permits, we understand Florida as a whole and a unique challenge of the Hillsborough County regulatory environment. Our experience has revealed that clear communication and face-to-face interactions will help to ensure a smooth and expedite process for every project. Our local expertise is the foundation of our ability to deliver results quickly and compliantly. I'm going to send this back to Nick for the next slide.
Thank you, Miguel. For comments received from Kimberly on our PM interface system, Dynamics tracking and monitoring is going to utilize Procore, a critical risk mitigation tool, and it's going to provide that real-time visibility as a single source of truth. It increases our collaboration amongst our subcontractors, our clients, our vendors, and it scales as the team and program grows with that consistent reporting. Some examples of the PM interface, there's a few screenshots on the screen here. It takes a integrated approach to tracking and monitoring with customized reports. Some examples would be document and cost control, project status and tracking on timelines, organized project drawings, markups, as well as field observations, daily logs. And we're going to combine this with Power BI. So what that does for us is it allows us to connect our other systems, unifying cost, schedule, and data for those customized and interactive reports and projections. And the last year there was a question about what is Xactimate. So our team's well versed in Xactimate. It's a industry standard for damage assessment. And what it does is it localizes market data for materials, labor, and repairs, ensuring consistency, transparency across the work orders, the damage assessments, effectively reducing those pricing disputes. And it allows the program to develop accurate, thorough scopes very quickly. So the next slide, we'll hear from Chris.
Thanks, Nick. I want to talk quickly about some job site statuses. One of the things that we found that was an increased challenge with the type of volume that we've seen in the past is the ability to have clear communication from the top of the administrative level all the way down to the actual laborers who are completing the job on a day-to-day basis. The guys that are installing floors, hanging sheetrock, painting walls. And one thing that we found that really revolutionized a lot of the construction industry is the QR code. This gives us the ability, while protecting homeowner personal information, It allows us to be able to give the exact work order to the laborer that's completing the work, and he's inside of this home on bedroom 1 trying to figure out exactly what needs to be done. For someone who's experienced Xactimate before, for a $75,000 to $100,000 work order, you could see upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 individual line items for that house, which can be quite a challenge to make sure that that gets communicated well all the way down the chain. And so this QR code allows a laborer to walk to the house, scan the code, know exactly who his point of contact is for Dynamic, along with the exact work that needs to be done in that room at that time. Really changed the way we do things. Another job site tool that we use on a day-to-day basis is photo documentation. So one thing that Dynamic has chosen to do internally is verify and send out local representatives for ourselves to go visit these jobs on a weekly basis, to make sure that we're just not getting fluffy stories that make them feel good, that allow subcontractors to bill early, but we're truly validating the information before it gets reported to Nick and the reporting team. And we want to make sure that we can provide not only a written story of the progress or process of the project, but also a story that's supported by photo documentation, which really helps limit the conflicting stories about what was or was not completed on a file. Lastly on this is a comment that came up from Mr. John. He was just asking about a change order towards the end of a punch list. And we just wanted to verify or explain that that was a QA/QC list, not so much a workflow diagram. And so at the very end of a file, we are verifying, running a QA/QC on the initial assessment along with any change orders, just to make sure that everything that was asked to be completed and we said was going to be completed was verifiably true and there and completed in the home. Next slide, please. Lastly, for me, is going to be just typical subcontractor management. How do we manage subcontractors along with deadlines? And ultimately for us and our industry and at a whole, it ultimately boils down to clear communication from the top to the bottom. That communication is verified along with meetings and on-site visitations with our subcontractors, where we can be there together with the representative from us talking about what needs to be completed along with the subcontractor that's going to be completing the work. We also have weekly meetings where we in depth talk about every single house that we will have on our record at that time, just to make sure that nothing is getting left out, nothing is getting forgotten about. Each individual house will be talked about and the problems that are going on at that home. Lastly is going to be our monthly monitoring plan. All of our subcontractors understand that there's a scorecard, and that scorecard determines their future work. And so monthly we go through these and we make sure that our subcontractors understand whether or not they were meeting, exceeding or not exceeding our expectations, and that will ultimately either give them more work or we'll start moving on to a different subcontractor while we continue to make corrective actions in the field. Lastly, I'll pass it to Milan for some additional comments.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, guys. My name is Milan Wilson. I'm Senior Case Manager, and as Chris mentioned earlier, a Hillsborough County native. My work is deeply rooted in community, advocacy, and measurable impact. I personally have a true servant's heart. It's just the core of who I am. So thank you, Ms. Kimberly, for your kind remark acknowledging case managers. To get started in the slide, Ms. Nicole, Brenda, and Ms. Audrey, they inquired about outreach. Catholic Charities has an extensive footprint across Hillsborough County. They are the trusted source in our community. So the plan is to align resources to amplify community engagement and presence through social media, newsletters, and possibly community events in the near future. To address concerns of capacity, Catholic Charities will be leveraged strategically, not as the sole delivery mechanism. Their staffing support will be phased in under our strategic plan, providing a 4 to 6 month lead time to recruit and hire. Lastly, you all asked about mitigating issues. We at the Dynamic pride ourselves on strong homeowner communication and engagement throughout the entire process. Every homeowner receives clear expectations, consistent updates, and a dedicated point of contact so they're never left guessing, chasing information, or feeling unheard. We don't just manage their cases, we guide them through it. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll be passing the next slide back over to AJ to talk about prototype plans.
Thanks, Milan. So, guys, what we're looking at here is what we call a prototype plan. And this will be very important to someone like me on the pre-construction side. Like Nick kind of said, we want to, create workshops and design phase of this with the A&E team and BDO on how to create a prototype plan that is going through some VE, value engineering, to stretch dollars, because we know if we can stretch the dollars, we can serve more people and create a better program. So we are more than happy to talk with you about VE options, whether it be like just simplifying the plan as a whole as far as layout goes, or even using something like water conserving fixtures in the house or something like that. So we're more than happy to talk with VE options in the Q&A if you'd like. One of the questions from Tara was, what are some examples of selections that a homeowner can look at selecting? And if you look to your left there, that is it. So it's mostly just color of finishes, like countertops and cabinets and flooring and wall color, appliance package color. And if you look at the plan, there is in some cases a caveat where the homeowner can actually select how the front elevation of the home looks to create some diversity within the community. That's always a nice touch. The next point is, how is permitting handled? And Miguel talked about this a little bit, but we know that there's 4 permit offices in the area, and our permit team is prettybomb.com, dude. They pulled a bunch of permits and they work really hard, and they're good at creating relationships with these permit offices. And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll call each of them, familiarize ourselves with them, get them familiar with us, and furnish the documents that they need to push the permit forward in a timely manner. And I think that's all I have for this slide. So with that said, I'll turn it over back to Zach for some closing comments. Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, AJ. As you all can see from our presentation, this team likes to follow directions. If we're awarded, we're the kind of contractor that's going to show up and help you run the program you want. We know that every one of these programs is different, and we want to build the process that works best for you all. So just to close out, I know we may only have a few minutes left. At Dynamic, we're really proud to have helped so many families get back on their feet after storms. This is what drives this team every day. For me, it's personal. After Hurricane Katrina, I stood on a slab where my family's house used to be. We waited for help that never showed up. And honestly, that's a feeling that no person should have to have, and no person should have to wait a day longer than they have to. So that shapes every step of our process. We push ourselves to get people back home quicker. It shapes who we hire, how we plan, and eventually how we build. So the team you've seen today has the experience to build homes. Just last year, 1,200 homeowners received the keys back. We celebrate every time we get to do that, and we hope you'll be able to celebrate with us here pretty soon. And we're also committed to your recovery. We have local offices, we're hiring locally, and we've relocated really one of our most experienced project managers into your area. So with that, we're happy to take any questions, and we appreciate this opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. We'll move straight into Q&A.
So who is that project manager? You said you've relocated here?
So I'll answer that. Nick Haslam is the project principal that's going to relocate to Hillsborough. As you can see in the center there, Chris is at our Hillsborough office. He relocated there probably 3 months ago, Chris, 3 or 4 months ago, and is getting to work with our team and our subcontractors there in the Hillsborough area.
Okay, well, welcome.
I'll follow that here. Sorry, were you saying something? I don't want to cut you off.
I just said thank you. That's all.
Okay. So a few of you will be relocating. How many local staff do you have in Hillsborough or the neighboring counties today, though, on your payroll?
So the current program that we are working right now, we have 6 folks that are part of that program, working that program, but As you guys know, with the CDBG-DR programs, disaster recovery happens all over in the country. So our team is dedicated to go wherever we're working at. So, as we stated earlier, Nick Haslam, which is the project principal, will relocate. We have over 20 CDBG-DR superintendents that are experienced in this type of work. They're willing to relocate, and we have set up spots for them to relocate. So that's why we talk about when we get a program started, we want to start with the staff that's experienced in disaster recovery. As I said when I was speaking earlier, these homeowners have been through quite a bit, and it may have been several years since they've been in their home. So we want to make sure we got a staff that's experienced and understands this type of work, so we can work through with the homeowners.
Thanks.
I just have one question. You talked a little bit about your warranty process. Could you expound on your warranty service process for us?
Yeah, I'll turn that over to Chris and let Chris answer that.
Yeah, sure. So typical warranty is going to come in through our call center. We do have a call center that's on that is on staff that sits in the Baton Rouge office. We'll relocate them here when it becomes the time to do so. Initially, we'll verify the claim. We get a lot of calls that come in that are a thermostat. They just don't know how to use their thermostat. The breaker is chipped, a GFI tripped for whatever reason. So the first thing we're going to do is verify the claim. Once the claim is verified, we then reissue that back out to the subcontractor that did complete the work. They have 7 days to show up on site to decide what to do and make that adjustment. A lot of times it's very easy. We see probably 20% of the calls that come in are solved that day when our guy goes out there. It's either you flipping a breaker, it's a GFI that just needs to be reset, maybe even a homeowner that may not understand how to work their thermostat. Whatever it is, it's usually resolved relatively quickly. But anything that isn't is basically taken on by the subcontractor after that. Once the work is completed, we'll then go back out internally. We'll send our internal staff back out to verify that it was done the way that we want it to be done, and it is correct, and it is a permanent solution. And then once that's completed, we'll basically close out the paperwork showing that it's done, usually by sending out a form to our project management team who's on the other side on a program of this size.
And I would like to expand on that just a little bit when it comes to warranties. When you're building a new house, a recon, right, the warranty calls are a lot less because you got a new product. One thing that we learn in these programs, when you're working on rehabs, you're going in and you're repairing things in homeowners' houses that were damaged by the storm. Doesn't mean that you're repairing every single thing in their house. And, there's a lot of warranty calls that we receive that are items that was not part of the work order. So one caveat to that, when Chris says that our case manager will get the call about the warranty, we want to make sure that the warranty claim that is being claimed, we'll look through the work order to make sure that was part of the scope. So in most instances, I'm going to say 25 to 30% of the calls we get, they're calling about warranty work that was stuff that wasn't even on the work order. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you.
How many out of the 3,500 homes are in Florida?
Chris, do you want to expand on that, on what we got going on there?
Currently, our Florida population is 28. Relatively small number. But that's in this current program that we're working on. That's not including some of the other ones that we've completed in the past, and a lot of our team members have completed as well.
You mentioned lining up 25 dedicated local contractors. Can you speak to whether it's them or others, how many you've personally worked with on projects before?
Yeah, I'll start that. Yes, sir. So the ones that we listed in our proposal is contractors that we work with on a regular basis. When I talk about Miguel talked about 25 subcontractors. We have some of those subcontractors currently working for us, and some of those subcontractors, we have all their credentials, and they are CDBG-DR type subcontractors. So they're, whenever work comes along, they're ready to go to work.
Thank you.
I had a question about the subcontractor scorecards. Can you provide an example of like when the subcontractor's not performing well? And they get I guess like a bad score, what does that really look like and how do you address that with them?
So, as Chris said, weekly, we have a meeting to go through every single one of our projects. So we pretty much could tell before we do the scorecard if a subcontractor's performing or not. And what the scorecard does, it actually shows all the different subcontractors that's working, kind of how everybody's lining up. But if they're not performing, they won't be getting any more work. So this is all based off of performance. So when we going through every week looking at what contractors are performing or, where their percentages are, we can see that, which correlates to the scorecard. But that means that, we could weed out the subcontractors that are not performing as we expect them to perform.
So is it like a one time and you're out or?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. So, with subcontractors in this type work, you got many different types of subs. Some subs will perform specific trades. Some subcontractors will perform the entire scope of work. Some subcontractors, they got to understand what the program, what the program is. So they do very good at what they do. But as Chris said, when you start working on rehabs and Xactimate, there's many different line items. And if you hadn't been part of Xactimate before and you just start working, you got to learn how to read that program to make sure that you understand exactly what you're doing. So we do work with subcontractors to make sure that they understand the work scope. And, let's be honest, there's some subcontractors that just, they won't perform like you want them to perform. So I think the main point of the scorecard is if we see that a subcontractor is getting off track, that's when we get with them to talk through a remediation plan and try to get them back on track. Then, if we see it's not going to work out, they don't get any more work awarded to them.
Scotty, can I chime in a couple of those things as well? To boil into a couple of items that we really pay attention to. One of those is just going to be overall quality. We need to make sure that the applicants that are in this Hillsborough area receive quality work and not shoddy work. Another thing is going to be timeliness. Timeliness is incredibly important across the board, along with communication with our administrative staff. That's another big one that we pay attention to. If we're struggling getting a hold of people, it is going to be noted and it's also going to be communicated on. You talked about slight corrective actions. We will have a dedicated a person that will be dedicated to that subcontractor along with potentially multiple subcontractors across the area. And one of the first things we do on corrective action is make sure that we schedule an on-site meeting where we can specifically point to the problem. Even if it's timeliness, it's like, look, where were you guys over the last couple of days? We've trying to call you, whatever it is. So we're going to do on-site communication. One of the things that's just true across the board is it's much cheaper to make sure that we clearly communicate our expectations and we work to disciple them across the process. It is so expensive to hire fire, like that's so expensive. And so we've got a really good dedicated staff to make sure we're putting clear expectations and pointing out specific issues that really need to be improved. Yeah, that's what I got.
I would just chime in on this. The scorecard is really a transparency tool that allows us to all look across and see where folks stand. It's not something that we as a company believe in using in an indiscriminate manner or in a way that says, hey, you got a house that got hung up and permitting or some sort of FEMA rule, and now we're looking to take it out on you. I think we understand that these things also need communication, they need flexibility. We need to be communicating with you all exactly how we're using that. And so just know that that's our plan.
I have a few questions. Can you summarize how you would engage our small business subcontracting community? How you engage them, how you keep them engaged, how they can become part of the success of the extended team?
Yeah, I want to start this and I'll pass it over to Zach. I think I said this earlier. We're all about hiring local. We understand that, you know, this disaster happened in Hillsborough County, and we want to get the most resources out of Hillsborough to work with us, and that is small businesses. When we start a program, you know, we want to have our key staff that understands these projects. But as we're starting a project, we're recruiting and trying to find the best talent that we can. So that includes small businesses. As Zach started off with, when it comes to a small business, right, sometimes there's cash flow struggles, right? They don't really understand the payment terms, or, you know, you got to wait to get paid. So what we do is we sit down across the table from those folks, and there's different things we can work out with them for payment terms. You know, we can pay them on a weekly basis. We can pay them on a monthly basis. So it's all about sitting down and understanding what the needs of that small business is. And Zach, I'll turn it over to you to take over from there.
Yeah, I think even stepping forward, you know, we want open communication with the subcontractor base in the county, right? So you've already seen that picture where we did some contractor events and hiring events. I think we want to continue those to make sure that we're an open door, and that folks that want to come in and compete and be a part of it, hey, the more of those that we have, the more successful we're going to be, the more successful you're going to be. And then once we get them in the door, it's that training, it's sort of slowly onboarding, it's using that scorecard, not to punish, but to make sure folks have an understanding of what the program contours are, what the goals are of the program. Like Chris mentioned, quality. And then it's those payment terms, making sure that we're flexible with them, because we know, you know, I mentioned we were founded as a home building company 25 years ago. We know what it's like to not make money. We know what it's like to barely make payroll 20 years ago. And, you know, we respect folks that are starting out and want them to do well.
So you guys would be willing to pay them weekly, even if it means before you get paid for the same scope of work?
Absolutely. That's where I wanted to jump in at. So we've learned, you know, in the many years of experience we have in CDBG-DR, those smaller businesses, they're the hammer swingers. They're the guys that go out there and actually do the work. So we're set up just for that. You know, we got a team that'll pull the permits. We got a team that'll do the change orders for them. We got a team that does all of the paperwork for those type businesses. And we let them go out and perform their work. We let them go do what they're good at doing, the stuff that they don't know about. You know, we will do that for them. There's some small businesses that they say, look, we can do all of this, right? We don't need you to help us with that. And that's okay too. But, you know, we're set up. Chris talked about the program that we're wrapping up now with the houses. You know, we had multiple different types of subcontractors working on those houses, right? We had some super subs that would take on the entire scope. We had some subcontractors that would take on from 50% on or beginning of 50%. So, you know, as the program gets started, we definitely want to engage small businesses, local contractors. We want to sit across the table from them. And one thing that we also learned, which is very important, you know, sometimes you'll talk to people and they'll tell you that they could conquer the world, right? So when it comes to a subcontractor, we won't load them up with work. We'll give them enough work to get them busy. And as a program ramps up, that's what we'll do with the subcontractor. If that subcontractor shows us that they're capable of doing the work, we'll pass them on more work. If that subcontractor is struggling, we won't pass them more work. So it's a communication thing, you know, at the very beginning, to make sure we understand their needs and where they fit in this type of program. And it's also monitoring them to make sure that, you know, when you're getting started, they understand the exact scopes that they're supposed to perform.
Thank you for that. And two more questions, but I want to make sure everyone around the room.
I'll wait for you. I just got one quick one.
All right. Looks like we have 3 questions, so just keep that in mind, please. I think we have 15 minutes, right?
Plenty of time.
Can you, so you're well aware that by the time these projects spin up, we're going to be looking at about 18 months since the conclusion of the 2 storms with Helene and Milton. Can you give us your thoughts on what unique challenges that will present to us as a program, launching this program and running this program with that amount of lag being built into the process?
Yes, sir. I'll start it and I'll pass this off. But, you know, if it's a recon, it really doesn't matter, right? Because you're tearing that house down and you're building another house, right? So that really is not a challenge. One thing that's a challenge is if it's a rehab that you're going to renovate, you know, if it's been that long and it's raining or there was just something that was open to the elements of the house, that may not be considered the storm damage that happened at that current time, but you know, we're still getting damage to that particular house until that house gets started. The other thing is when you get into some of these rehabs, right, the scope, letting it pass this long, the scope may not look as intense as it is, but when you get in there and you start tearing in the walls and start looking at things, the scope could actually increase because there's things that you can't see because that house has been open for a minute. So that's some of the challenges that we see. The other challenges in our programs, you know, the survivors, right? These survivors have been waiting for months and months saying the program's coming, and you know, they got to go through all the process verification, and these survivors, by the time they get to the construction team, you have to have a dedicated group of people. Look, I'll raise my hand and tell you I'm the first one who learned that you got to be able to know how to talk to these survivors, right? When you meet them for the first time, you got to be compassionate. You got to hear their stories. You can't just tell them what you're going to do and don't listen to them. You got to be able to listen to them. And as AJ said earlier, you know, our superintendent will go there and meet with that homeowner, but that homeowner may not understand exactly what our superintendent is trying to tell them, and that's okay, right? Because we got a process for that. They'll get with our case manager. Our case manager will call and talk to them. And look, our case manager may call and talk to them and talk through things with them, and they still may not understand, right? And that's okay. That's why we got the liaison. The liaison is our last step, where that particular person spends time with that applicant to make sure that they understand the process and walk them through the process. So, you know, in our experience, you know, the applicants are a huge part of these programs to make sure they understand what we're providing for them.
Thank you.
Just to double down on what Scotty said. I mean, we work with folks every day that just have so much fatigue from programs. They applied to FEMA for individual assistance like your folks did, then they applied to SBA, maybe they got a loan. Now they're in a CDBG program. The program here in Louisiana that we're in, it's from Hurricane Ida in 2021. And so no one is impressed when we show up. But our goal is that our project managers, our superintendents can build a level of respect and rapport, and that at the end of the day, those folks appreciate the work we've done for them.
And I'll let Nick, I think you need to jump in on here and just from your experience as a project manager, what, you know, a lag time in 18 months does. Can you give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's that frustration, but ultimately it's what can we do for that survivor? So it's walking them through the process. You know, you have no out-of-pocket costs. We're helping you get your permit. We're explaining your scope of work, and we're clear expectations and communication on this is what we're going to do for you to get you back in your house, which is, well, a home at that point. Let's get you back in your home. So they're, you know, typically frustrated. They've been waiting a long time, as Zach said, but as much information we can communicate and as much items as we can do for them if they have a permitting hangup. You know, we talked about variances on a new build or construction plans, just what exactly are they getting from this program and what we're going to deliver to them on a timeline basis, as well as walking them through the steps from start to finish.
Can I just follow up? How long does the DOB process take usually? The beginning.
I
So
guess, go ahead. I'm sorry, Nick.
the duplication of benefits
Yeah, how long does
So-
that usually take per client?
on an eligibility standpoint, I think that that can be resolved once you get the updated FEMA numbers. Typically, it's less than 30 days to find out your eligibility.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in. I think that's done on the, eligibility side. There was an SBA loan that was made, and it wasn't paid back. I think that goes back towards their duplication of benefits. So I think before that actually becomes a construction project, the homeowner's made aware of you're going to have some DOB. And I think a couple ways to resolve that is you either got to pay your DOB before your construction starts, or there's some scope that the homeowner could actually complete to remove off of their work order, and that's how they fulfill their duplication of benefits. So I think that's in the eligibility stage where you figure out if there's DOB or not.
John, you had a quick question?
Yeah. Hey, VHL, they're your, I think if I have it right, they're your main partner in this. What's, how long have you been working with them? What's your relationship with them?
Yeah, so BHL is one of our subcontractors. I wouldn't say they're our main partners. We have several subcontractors. BHL has been in the CDBG-DR world for a minute, in North Carolina, Alabama, Florida. We've been working beside them since, I think it's been 5 or 6 years that we've been working inside of them in programs.
Okay, thank you.
I think this would, anyone else have any questions? I have the last one. Just want to check. This probably relates more to reconstruction versus rehab, but at some point there's a need to mobilize and start building a first home or the first homes. What is the manner in which you ensure that your construction quality standards are met from the onset?
Chris or Nick, do you want to take that one? I could answer, but I'll let y'all go through that.
Yeah, I'll start. One of the things that I think is incredibly helpful is the fact that we've been here for quite a while. So we understand at least wind zone types, design types. Miguel here has been in the Florida area across the state for the last 20 years effectively. And so he's got more than enough experience on the construction engineering aspect to where we fully comprehend kind of what they're looking for these types of wind zones that you're going to see in the Hillsborough area. But as far as maintaining those standards, one of the biggest things that we're going to end up having to do, and as we do in all of our other jurisdictions, is just making sure that we pinpoint the correct areas that need to be QA/QC'd, whether that's a strapping plan or a hold down plan or a foundation design, regardless of what that item is that we'll have to work through with the jurisdiction and with the engineering, like AJ mentioned before, some engineering aspects that can make a construction plan very simple to build and very cost effective to stretch the dollars for the program. And then there's also some engineering that can really just overburden a project with cost, that it really shrinks the program's capacity. And so that we've been able to do that in some other areas, but if you're working in any new jurisdiction, any new city, dealing with any new particular inspector, there's just going to be some face-to-face that we have to have with those jurisdictions to pinpoint those key areas of, like I said, hold down patterns, building design, techniques, things like that.
Thank you.
Is it worth mentioning, Scotty, when we start a program, we like to get real aggressive on the front end, and we'll work with Chris and Nick to create some really aggressive schedules. And it's not that you need to build a house in 60 days or 80 days, but to show the team, to show the subcontractors, and to show you all that we can do something like that. Those are the kind of goals that we'd want to set if we're selected, and you all say, hey, can we push at the beginning? We want to show the public what we can do. And in other programs, we've offered to front load some of the costs. If you all said, hey, bring in this type, would you all front some of this because we're still getting through the paperwork? I can say right now, absolutely, this team will make those financial sacrifices in order to get things started quickly.
Thank you. Any other questions from, what's going place? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, we're good. That'll wrap it up, guys. We greatly appreciate you hopping on here today with us, and we also appreciate your flexibility throughout this process. Committee will all be meeting again at 3:45 today publicly if you'd like to watch and listen to our discussion. That is all we have for you guys. We appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.